Hello, it's Kendrick Technology Interpreters. And so today we got a special guest. This is going to be Chase Fopiano. And Chase is somebody that I met at a cybersecurity resilience conference. We were talking about critical infrastructure and a lot of other things with a lot of really important people in the room. So Chase, if you would just take a moment, just give us a little bit about who you are and your background, and we'll jump right into the topics.
Thanks, Kendrick. Appreciate you having me on, and it was definitely great connecting with you at that event.
Oh, yeah.
So my background's very diverse. I do a bunch of different things in different spaces: public safety, private, nonprofit space. With you can see in the background my nonprofit Chase Privacy. But my background, kind of coming into cybersecurity, started in probably a unique spot that most people don't enter the field from. So I started my career in law enforcement. I was a sworn law enforcement officer. Been in that field for going on 19 years now, almost pretty much finished up, but halfway along the way, I kind of shifted into the technology role and then into cybersecurity right after that. And it kind of was a great pathway because having that law enforcement background and then moving over to the stuff I had investigated and now trying to protect against in that cybersecurity kind of administrator or information security role. So a lot of experience with incident response and kind of just seeing both sides of it, the criminal mindset side, and then also the managerial side on how to best defend against those type of attacks. So pretty unique role, and it's definitely helped me along the way.
Now, so when you came to cybersecurity, because a lot of my audience right now, they're people who are trying to get into cybersecurity, who are very new into cybersecurity also. So we talked about this the other day. The cybersecurity landscape has changed, as far as the people are trying to get into it. So from your perspective, if someone wants to get into cyber, or maybe get into cyber specifically to work for, the state and local or law enforcement or something like that, what type of skills do you think that people need at this point? Skills, certifications, whatever, just to be able to get into cyber?
So I think the industry and the landscape is very tough right now, especially the market I see in being in different sectors and different positions I'm in. So the best advice I can give and what I've seen from some students coming out or just some professionals trying to get into the profession is just building that base foundation, because a lot of this stuff you may not get that exact skill set through a university program or through a certification program. So building that foundation of your network, I would say, is a big thing. Go to these events. A lot of them are free to go to or pretty reasonable to go out there and network with professionals in that field. I know I was just down in a couple of them in Miami, the one I met you at, and these are great places to just have that initial conversation and hear kind of the mindset of the people in the industry. And that helps you build kind of that first step in that foundation of having that vision of, okay, what I have talked to a couple people in it. I know, hey, maybe this is what they look for in their different job roles and job placements. And then it kind of lets you go on that path. From there, I think a lot of it is what you do for yourself. Like when I moved into my position, I didn't really have any training. I came from law enforcement, investigations. I had a master's degree in security management, so I had the risk management mindset and some security background. But a lot of the training, like I wasn't going to wait for someone else to open the golden doors per se to give me that opportunity. I went out and knew that I had to be competitive out there. And so I went, and any free resource I could find online through CISA has a great learning resource site. Texas A&M, who I teach for, has great online resources that count as college credits, and that you could go on there for free and sign up for classes with all you need is a FEMA SID. So finding those resources on how you build yourself to be that competitive candidate when you come into these agencies or these organizations, and whether it's government, private sector, that it's just getting through that HR door per se and getting through that HR filter. So as many things as you can do on your own and show that you proactively went through kind of that grinder, that's what I look for, because I see the full spectrum of people coming out. I see the ones that I went through this program and I'm applying for jobs and I just take the yes and no's as they come. But then I have some people, and a kid, Josh, who's working with me right now, he researched, he looked onto my profile, looked onto my companies, he kind of built up the courage. He sent me a message on LinkedIn asking like, hey, can we have an initial talk? What do you think employers are looking for out there? What can I do to set myself apart? And it ended up turning into an internship for him. And I've been able to see his work ethic and drive. And things like that are what set you apart trying to get into that field. First, making those network connections, then trying to do anything you can to get your foot in the door through that connection or through get more experience. because a lot of it is sadly you don't get that experience in school, so you have to create that through your own. And some of this stuff might be volunteering, doing some free work with a mentor just to get that opportunity. And I've learned through life and a lot of the things I've done through nonprofits or like right now, Global Council for Responsible AI. A lot of the best opportunities you'll have for your future are sometimes not paid, but those opportunities can turn into something very worthwhile and lucrative. So those couple of things I think definitely set yourself apart, network. I know educational definitely has a basis nowadays with just getting through that HR filter. And that's just some of the tips I've seen, and I think what sets you apart entering the field.
Okay. So one of the things I really want to kind of discuss is like my biggest peak right now is people, like a lot of these university programs are teaching with open source tools and stuff like that, free tools, and they're not using like real tools that are used on the job. That's my impression. But from your perspective, like, like if for people who are watching this, like, so they understand what the heck they need to do once they get the job. And I know you can't really maybe share your tool set, you know what I'm saying? But what the heck do you do every day as a cybersecurity professional? Like, what is your real job? Because I guarantee they don't have a lot of times what I see, they don't really have a clue. They have what they think we do, and there's what we really do. So
yeah, so it definitely depends your role and your position, but luckily in government and a lot of organizations we're understaffed in cybersecurity roles as well. So no matter what you are, an analyst, information security officer, business information security officer, CISO, you end up taking on a little responsibilities outside your role. So like my experience and my day-to-day, I'm doing everything from policies and procedures. Risk management is a heavy foundation of cybersecurity that most people don't think of. But once you transfer into those management roles, you start having to communicate in risk and talk about what's the business decision related to the risk and what does it make most sense to do for the business. So risk management, I monitor tools every once in a while from our different incident detection systems, our SIM platforms, our SOAR platforms, supervising a team that are looking at different platforms and different systems and looking at millions of alerts over the course of a month, looking for that little needle in a haystack that might be that real incident that you have to respond to. If an incident happens, I handle incident response. I handle the liaison for incident response, the contacting federal law enforcement if it requires, because a lot of these, let's say ransomware incidents, it goes to a federal level. So you're supporting your agency, your local government, but then you're also contacting the federal government and CISA for support and resources, since like we mentioned, you may not have unlimited staff or the amount of people you actually need. And then what else? My day-to-day cybersecurity events, networking, constant education, keeping up on cybersecurity trends. Now with AI, as we talked about the other day, got to keep up with AI in cybersecurity, which is a huge threat vector. So it's kind of a merry-go-round per se of just keeping up with stuff while doing the daily things you have to do, keeping that growth mindset, learning new things, continuing education. I've gone after certifications based off a lot of experience and just helping myself in the field and kind of just continuing to grow, because it can be very chaotic and all over the place kind of days in cybersecurity.
okay, so you kind of hit one of my pain points. So I want to talk about this a little bit. In most cases, in most organizations, we're kind of understaffed, right? When it comes to cybersecurity, I can say I don't know of a single organization where they say, "Hey, we got all the staff we need for cybersecurity," right? So that being the case, like you said, you got millions and millions of events that you're going through, or even alerts, right? You might have a million alerts. Hopefully not. That's definitely a lot. But if you have all that information and then you're doing other things, like you're doing kind of like those compliance things and stuff like that, and then you get to check in on alerts, that to me seems like that. And this is what I'm used to seeing all over the place. But that makes it really hard for attackers who are pretty much running automated attacks 24/7 from multiple groups, multiple threat actors, and then your time is split between you're doing this type of paperwork, this type of task, maybe some tech support here and there,
Yeah.
and then you're looking at the alerts later proactively, and they're stacking up. So we're always behind. So how can we ever in cybersecurity really protect the organizations that we were supposed to protect when our time is split versus the threat actors, who it's not just one of them, it's only one of us attacking protecting our organization a lot of times, or two or three. And then there are hundreds of, or maybe thousands of threat actors, or threats definitely, that are attacking our company 24/7, or our organization, or whatever. That's to me why we can't win this battle, right? So in your mind, how do we address this? How do we like level this? Is there any way we can use AI to kind of catch up or to level the playing field, because they're using AI too, so that just multiplies their efforts? So what are your thoughts there?
So definitely great question, and start with the last part first. So AI is the next big thing. It's been out there for a couple of years now. It's amazing what it can do, and like every technology that comes about, there's going to be good and bad use cases. And just like the many great things you can do now with ChatGPT and the different platforms out there, you can do just as bad things with them. And nation states and threat actors are definitely leveraging those technologies to attack organizations and attack government and attack critical infrastructure. So we definitely need to, especially in government and sectors that may be a couple of steps behind usually from like the big tech companies out there in the world, we need to take that proactive approach I always like to refer back to. And kind of, I understand that a lot of people may not trust AI or not be fully aware of what AI does or how it operates. But at the end of the day, it's computer systems, it's cloud platforms, it's cloud security, and it can be secured. It's not fully untrustworthy. Like there are systems out there that are built. I have one specifically. We built it with privacy by design and security by design by default because we saw that as an issue. Like, oh, I don't trust AI. Well, let's build something that you can trust and it's clear and you can look at everything and know that, okay, my data is not being shared, it's being processed in a government cloud. So there are things out there that we need to get past that first kind of step of fear. Because I'm always,
Yeah.
as much as I'm like, everyone has fear, but sometimes the worst thing is just holding back because of that. Like I will never hold myself back because of fear. I'd rather take a step forward and face it and learn from it than just never take that step. So I think that's one of the main things we need to do. We need to get to that proactive state of using AI to defend against these threat actors that are already using it every single day. And a point that you hit on, think of a room full of hackers. That's what these countries have. And these could be insanely large rooms of hackers that they're operating with because a lot of these countries, and I tell people this when I teach, if you look at some of the best cybersecurity people in the United States, and this isn't a dig on anyone, but the people that are going to MIT, getting PhDs in cyber, Stanford PhDs in cyber, I always ask the question to our classes, who are those individuals usually going to work for? And a lot of the time it's the private sector in the United States because they're leaving those schools and they're getting about $500,000 jobs a year in the private sector, where in the government at some of our local government agencies, depending on where it is in the country on cost of living, you might be in a range of 60 to 100,000 for a similar job. In other countries, the best of their best that are at their best schools, a lot of the time are going to work for the government. So even worse, those are the people we're defending against every single day from these nation states that are just attack after attack. And a lot of those, you can see those little charts that they'll pull up online. Fortinet has one, and it shows like the attacks every second coming over the United States, and we also shoot them back as well. So I'd like to not just say everyone else does it besides us. We have great cyber operations too. But so it does put us in an impossible situation, but that really shifts it back to that risk mindset of identifying what you have, identifying what your critical assets are, because you know this, not every single thing you have is a critical asset or your most sensitive system. So knowing how we define those things, identifying them, and then making sure those extra security controls are in place for those super sensitive, top secret, or intellectual property that's kept in those different types of systems. So that's not to say we shouldn't protect everything. I'm all towards, like if we have in law enforcement, we have criminal justice information systems. If there's a system with one CJIS file in it, then I'm going to protect it the same as I'm going to protect every CJIS system. So it's definitely not making an excuse, but it's just something on a risk perspective. And knowing your organization, you have to be realistic that management or your company can't protect everything equally. And that goes also to, I really think we need to shift organizational cultures to that cybersecurity proactive mindset. I think many companies wait till basically the attack happens to do anything about prevention. And if you look at some of the recent attacks, Atlanta went through this, Baltimore went through this, what they could have done preventively, cost-wise, you're maybe looking at a couple $100,000 to build a pretty robust security system. But instead of leadership taking maybe the accountability or seeing the seriousness of cybersecurity and cyber risk, nothing was really done. And I don't want to say nothing was done. I'm sure they had some controls in place, but they waited to those attacks. And if you look at the recovery cost for those cities, it was like 18 to 20 million each. And I promise you, if you went back in time and showed a business executive of those organizations a video of what could happen to their city and say, hey, which one do you choose, the 200,000 or the 18 million, and you lost your job, they're probably going to pick the front one if they see that happens to someone in their exact same position, a city exactly their same size, and things like that. And then with the understaffed part, the best thing I've seen is just, hey, what can we automate? A lot of these new security platforms have integrated AI and automation. So it kind of filters out a lot of those things that 5 years ago we had to do manually. So like those thousands of alerts, it will filter out kind of the ones that, hey, this is normal user behavior. This one is a little more serious alert. Now let's alert the security analysts and that team. And so I think adapting and adopting automation and these AI technologies will help our cybersecurity teams, especially because I don't sadly see the staffing issue changing. Like in my law enforcement career, we've had staffing issues basically the last 19 years. And every company I work with, we have staffing issues. So no one ever has enough people. So the one thing I don't like to do is just harp on the excuses of why not to do something. Like, we need to accept the fact that we're understaffed or accept whatever budget we have. And instead of just going around in circles, we need to just take that step forward. Like I mentioned with fear, like you can't do anything if you're not acting.
Cool. That's a very interesting perspective. So that being the case, so if we were talking about some tangible steps, so let's take it back a little bit, kind of. So for those trying to get into security, you mentioned networking for one thing, right? Any and once again, being willing to do internships sometimes for free, right? Any specific skill sets, anything that they can do, like, or that you think that they would focus on particularly, that would be beneficial to help them, in addition to those things that you mentioned, stand out? Any particular tools? Because there's so many things out there, and most of the people I meet, they're just doing everything. They're on Try Hack Me, they're on Hack the Box, they're doing, doing
Yeah.
Python, they're just doing everything. And the problem is, so my perspective is they're not really good at anything. They just been touching a bunch of things. And so I believe right now, this is the time to pick a lane and to become very good at whatever you choose within the cyber field, right? The cybersecurity field, and go deep. So what about you? What is your perspective? What do you think people should do to prepare themselves now?
So I do agree that last statement you made of kind of picking that focus area within cyber, because most people say cyber, but there's 20 different things within cyber you can do, or focus areas you can do. And I kind of always have the same conversation with businesses as well. Like if you go too broad, it's too hard to reach everything. You cannot do that. So you need to, like in my career, I really narrowed it down to the one compliance area I'm expert in is CGIS, and the certain portion of security I'm an expert in is cloud security. Because as much as you think on-prem and cloud security is the same, it's not. You have to get used to the different platforms. You have to get used to the different language, the different configurations. Are you working in Microsoft Azure? Are you working in Microsoft AWS? Not Microsoft AWS, sorry. So kind of picking that route and staying focused on that, because I found myself doing that too. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to go over here and get this certification, this certification, this certification. But it was too like broad and general. And then as I really started focusing and realizing like what I wanted to do in cyber, I started really going narrow down that path. And then I knew like, okay, this is worth my time. This one, not really. Let me set that aside, take that step forward. Okay, now this will help me get to there, and kind of taking that strategic plan. And a lot of time, I know you mentioned the technical stuff. Like if that's the route you want to go, then those things can be great. And learning like, hey, I know for this role, I'm going to have to know Python. But like in my roles, I've really never had to use Python for probably 5 years in anything I do. So for me to do that, that would not be beneficial for my time. But identifying that, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Let's focus on that. I think one of the most undervalued skill sets people could have coming out of college or coming from different careers
Mm-hmm.
is people always think that IT cyber, like, oh, technical coding, you need to be able to do this and that. But a lot of it comes down to, in a lot of the rooms I sit in and a lot of the boards or companies I'm a part of, no matter how great I am on the cyber side, having that opposite part of being able to communicate with the rest of the business users, communicate with the people that don't care really at all about cybersecurity, those have been the most useful kind of skills that I've gathered and kind of tried to enhance over the years, with just being able to communicate with everyone in the organization, because I have to explain from the top level all the way to the bottom level of either why not to click on something, what are the different threats we're facing right now, different security awareness trainings. And if you go into these conversations just with that technical mindset and like, oh, I'm a coder or I'm a cyber guy, you're never going to be able to, not never, but it's going to be very difficult to connect with everyone outside of that realm. And your organization may not be able to get to that next effective level if you're not communicating that properly. So just focusing on how to kind of communicate the cyber realm and terms and cyber risk to everyone else in your organization and the business as a whole, that's kind of that best skill set I didn't have the first half of my career. But once I got involved more in outside businesses and things like that and C-level stuff, I realized that I have to communicate cyber in more of a risk perspective, why it should matter to executives, what will happen if they choose not to have it matter. So honestly, communication is probably one of the best things, and kind of going that route, because it goes back to an interview too. You can have an amazing resume. If you can't communicate with people in an interview or connect with people in your organization, you may never get to that next job or even past those first HR filters in that interview process. So just the simple stuff sometimes is what will get you the furthest and into the door initially. And then from there, you could focus on all the technical stuff you want. But
And for our folks, we're going to talk a little bit about, so if they need your services with Chase Privacy, what services do you all offer at this point?
So Chase Privacy is a nonprofit. Kind of a little background on it. My old LinkedIn name for years was Chase Privacy, because that's kind of like a little side hobby, educating people on just how to keep your data private online, how to minimize your data, because nowadays everything out there is looking for your data and it's basically a gold mine. So I kind of took, especially once I had kids, I took that as like a priority, because I don't want my information out there. I don't want my kids' information out there. So I kind of took that online persona into play. And then as it went on, strangely, this only really turned into a thing because LinkedIn basically messaged me threatening me they were going to delete my profile because it wasn't my real name. So I ended up turning Chase Privacy into a nonprofit, and it basically serves as both an educational body and a research body. And we do kind of strategic research when it comes to privacy and cybersecurity within AI now. Just because from a lot of the different roles I've seen, the United States in general is taking a extreme path to innovation, but I still think there needs to be a counter side to that to make sure we're doing it kind of with privacy at the forefront as well, and also making sure cybersecurity best practices are followed. So we basically, different research pieces right now, we're kind of researching third-party risk management when it comes to AI platforms. A lot of them are software as a service, cloud-based. So kind of what keys are you turning over to them once you sign up for some of these platforms and put all your data in there? So kind of just strategic research, and we do educational seminars and things like that. But really out there to educate the community, kind of leave a lasting impression of, we know a lot of people aren't aware of these things, and AI is moving so fast every single day that we really feel like someone needs to be out there kind of telling the real story of AI and innovation versus some of these other important metrics like cybersecurity and privacy.
Okay. Some you're available to come speak to different groups and stuff like that if they through the nonprofit,
Yeah,
or
we
do y'all
do
have
we
services?
do speaking sessions, we do educational groups, executive briefs. A lot of it started because of my side teaching job at Texas A&M. We teach cybersecurity all around the country, so I saw kind of a niche need as well to kind of have those more focus groups with either it's community leaders, executive leaders in a business, um, HOA groups in neighborhoods, just individuals that may not be getting the true picture of where AI is or where privacy is nowadays with legislation, or where cybersecurity is. And all three of those issues, everyone, I feel, worldwide, and especially in the US, is dealing with because of our advanced technology. So we just feel like it's important to get the word out there, and doesn't hurt that we're a nonprofit where we come out, we basically cover our expenses just to come out and educate you, and kind of still try to exist as an organization to pursue our mission.
Okay, cool. And if you are still watching the video at this time, do a hashtag Chase privacy in chat. So, but I didn't think about this many people got to the end of the video, started doing these hashtags and stuff like that, right? And surprise, there was a lot of people who actually dropped hashtags. So anyway, but also if you are trying to get into cybersecurity, just want to mention before you go out and spend $10,000-$15,000 on the boot camp, I want to have a link to my cybersecurity mentorship program. It's $99 a month. We've got a real environment. We take you through, not only develop your command line skills. So it's going to be your DOS, hands-on navigating Windows, basically entire machine, about 8 hours of networking training, PowerShell, Tenable for vulnerability management, and SentinelOne. And we've actually built a live environment. We got over 1.5 thousand vulnerabilities in this environment. And the mentees are actually going through the process of remediating and fixing these 1.5 thousand vulnerabilities. So you definitely get hands-on, you get real exposure. We also have alert detections. We got a live environment that's attacked every day. So anyway, if you're interested, check out the cybersecurity mentorship program in the description of this video. So thanks for watching, and check out one of my other videos on Tenable, SentinelOne, or other